welcome back. My name is Gina and this is my little corner of the internet where I share with you about my knitting. So I have got a lot to show you today, so I will jump right in. I have this finished object which I have talked about before, but is being released today when I am recording this, not when it will be uploaded, but this is the Gigha tank. This was a test knit for the Crea Rebecca Clow. And like I said, I am recording on July 24th. It just released today. Probably this is not going to go up for a couple of weeks though, so it probably will not be still on its introductory offer by the time this goes up. However, I can still heartily recommend the pattern. So if you want to see where I talked about this in more depth back when I had just recently completed it, I will put a little card linking that video up there. But yeah, I finished this way back in May. I think it only took me about a week to knit. So the pattern comes with both directions for a DK weight or the fingering weight version. I knit the DK weight. There were people in the test knit group who knit both. I think both knit up very quickly. Obviously the DK is going to be quicker than the fingering version, but yeah, since there's really just so little of the thing, even with a fingering weight garment, I think this would be pretty quick. And I definitely have ideas for doing a second one. So, I did mine in one color. So the whole thing is knit in panels. You knit a front panel, a back panel, and then side panels. And Rebecca has instructions for if you want to knit a like ribbed panel to go in for the joining section, and those were really cute. That's probably what I'm going to do for my next one, but I opted to do granny squares, and Rebecca doesn't really have any instructions in there for how to do that. She was just like, the world's your oyster as far as what you want your panels to be, how you want to construct them, just here's the size they need to be. And so I experimented, played around with, my yarn and making granny squares, because I had to learn how to make them. I had never made them before. I am not a crocheter. So I watched a lot of videos and did some practice squares, and I'm happy-ish with how mine came out for my first time, but I didn't really think through the fact that like my granny squares were the exact width that they needed to be, but they weren't the right height when I went around the squares this many times. And so I ended up having to do this weird little like 2 small granny squares and connect them to my larger square to get something that was, to get this the length that I needed it to be. And I think what other people did who didn't have to do this janky little repair thing that I did, I think they made all of their squares were like this size, however many rounds that was, and they just had 2 going up all the way instead of like 2 big ones there. So I should have made the little ones, but I just since I'm a newbie to crochet and there weren't really any instructions on what we should be doing, I didn't realize that is how I should set those up. So anyway, let's see, I made mine out of Drops Belle in, I think they're blue jeans color. I think that's this color. If you want to know the color, just go look at my Ravelry. I always forget to say, but always in my description boxes, I will put the links to all of my Ravelry projects, and I will also, without you having to go to the link, I will put the name of the pattern, the designer, and the yarn that I use, so you can get that info without having to visit Ravelry. But if you want more information than that, you can click on my Ravelry link and it will take you there. So yeah, it's knit in panels. I opted to add short rows to mine so that my panel would be long enough. So I was the first person to do this. So I looked at this and was like, okay, I know I'm gonna have to knit this a lot longer than it's supposed to be, because it's kind of supposed to be at a, you know, pretty cropped length. And I knew mine was not going to be able to be cropped if I wanted it to cover my bust, unless I added short rows. And so I got permission. Rebecca was fine with that and added my short rows in, and then showed those in the group. And then a lot of the other testers were like, oh, I want to do that too. How did you do that? Asking questions about it. And so Rebecca actually was like, oh, you want me to add short row instructions? And, you know, there was definitely a desire for that. So she added short rows. So in the final version, there is optional short rows that she gives you instructions for, but I did mine on my own. I was not quite sure when to start them because you know, my first time through, I had no idea like how much length was going to be added by the straps, just where things were going to sit in general. And so I was just guessing. I would probably, when I go back and do this again, I will start those lower, because ideally you want your bust starts to be pointing to the apex of your bust, and mine is pointing way above that. So they're functional. It's fine. They're just not ideally placed. Also in my next one, so this is a little wide for me. My bra straps do, like, this sits a little wider than my bra straps do. And you can definitely see that in the back. Of course it's not going to show you now, but I'll put up a picture. Basically this is, my back bra straps are never covered, by this. And I've just decided I'm just not going to care about that. This is not a, you know, professional garment that I'm wearing to work. So I'm not going to care about it. But when I make this again, I might actually start at a, like cast on for one of the smaller sizes, but then increase out, or I'm pointing up here, but increase out to the size 5, which is what size I did. And I think that would sort of that would make my strap sit in a little bit narrower if I had fewer stitches up here to start with. That was Rebecca's suggestion for the back. Anyway, so all in all, I heartily recommend this. I'm, like I said, definitely thinking about other versions that I can make, and I think it is a great, super cute. It will be very fun for color blocking. Do look at the other testers' versions, because there were some really fun striped ones. Some people even used variegated, which I would not have thought would look as cute as it did. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for playing with color here. And I did the opposite of what I usually do and went monochrome. So I don't know. I just had this vision of the granny squares being in the same color as the rest of the tank, and that's what I did. Oh, also, sorry about my athletic shorts. I'm not changing my bottoms for you guys. Sorry about that. Okay, so that is the Gigha tank. Okay, so I have a couple of finished objects actually to show you, and one of them is this little lady here. This is the Kytice Vest. And actually, I'm just gonna take it off of here. I absolutely cannot see what I'm showing you guys, so hopefully those details are showing up. So that's the front, and then here's the back. I opted to just do a plain back in reverse stockinette, except for the baubles. There is just so much going on in this vest. So I've said this before, so hopefully you guys aren't sick of hearing about this, but this is the Husemann. This was my first time doing that. It's like you carry floats along the front. There are just gobs and gobs of baubles. These are big baubles, and then there's little baubles, and we've got some lace in here, and let's see here. These little baubles are French knots, actually, and Then this section here is a special stitch that Klara created herself. She calls this the wheat stitch. And then these stitches up here are embroidery that you make with loops. And I think that about covers it. Obviously twisted stitches, cables, there's some wrapped stitches in there. Yeah, just all sorts of things going. And here's the shoulder detail, which are really cute. It's not your standard round. It like pulls up in there. And yeah, just, I think it's super, super pretty, very intricate, so much going on in it. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and give you the rundown on this, even though the pattern does not release until the test ends in mid-September, so the pattern is probably going to release mid to late September would be my guess, but I guarantee that I will remember nothing at that point. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell you about it now. It fits bust circumferences from 34.25 to 65.5 inches, or that's the finished bust circumference. It's supposed to have, well, she doesn't tell you how much ease it has. She says that is to fit up to a 61-inch bust, and so 30 maybe 31-inch bust to 61-inch bust. She actually suggests that you choose the size you're gonna make based on your cross back. There were some problems at the beginning of this test because with people and the sizing, what size they were going to do, a lot of us sort of got resized by Klara because her sizing that she had posted in the test call was incorrect at some point. So some of us had signed up for one size, like I think I had signed up for the size 5, and that was going to be too large for me, and so I got moved down to the size 4, and there were a lot of other people who were in that same situation of being pushed down. So yeah. So there's not really like a recommended positive ease, but based on the bust, she says it's intended to fit a 61-inch bust, and it goes up to a 65.5. I'm assuming about 4 inches of positive ease, which is in the neighborhood of, I did the size 4, which is 46.25 inches as the finished bust circumference. So that's like 6 inches of positive ease in my upper bust, and basically zero to a teeny bit of positive ease in my full bust. And it was just a very, very interesting knit. Obviously, the front panel is just full of interest, but even just the way it's constructed. So this is the stuff that I'm saying, like, I'm not going to remember this in 2 months, but you actually start with just this little piece right here. So you just cast on a few stitches right here, and then you work this down with short rows until you get to, I guess, like right in here is where you like cast on for more stitches. All I remember is you have these just little squiggly pieces that are coming out, and they curve out because you work these short rows, and then you start working down, and then you cast on and make some, because you're like, how is this going to be a vest? But it does become one. But it just starts very interestingly. So you do that in the front, start working your front down. You finally get to the interesting stuff here. If you are wanting to lengthen your vest, this is where you would do it, at the top, before you get started on the pattern, and then you increase out, and when you finally have increased all the way out, that is when you can join in the round. So I have talked about this before, but I opted to actually knit mine flat because I did not have any interest in, I can purl, I'm happy to purl, but I have no interest in making myself purl all of that reverse stockinette if I don't have to. And so I knit this flat so that I would have every other row as a rest row, only purled half of the rows. Yeah, so I knit mine separately, and then you come and you seam up those two top pieces right here, and mine is very ugly, the seaming. I will say the testing experience for this has not been the best. Like I said, it sort of started off with some problems at the beginning, and then we were told that the pattern had been tech edited. However, even as I was finishing up the vest, which I think I was the first one to finish, there were parts of it where I like asked a question about something and you know, Klara responded, and then I was like, okay, well, I would add that information, you know, here, like say what you just said so that people aren't confused. And she's like, well, I haven't written that part out yet. I'm like, okay, so how can the pattern have been through the tech editor if it hasn't even finished, been like all of the writing is not done, which I understand. I'm assuming that what had been sent to the tech editor was all the stuff involving the numbers, but it was just like the seaming and stuff. Those instructions like were not completely written at the time, you know, that I was finishing this test after about a month. And I guess it hasn't been a month. I guess it's been like 2.5, 3 weeks, something like that, of having the pattern. Like it still wasn't completely finished. So yeah, I just think that is, that is not the way that if I were queen of the world, a test would be run. A test would not be run until the pattern was finished. Every word of it that you thought was going to be there was there. It was, you know, everything was done and ready to go before you put it into your tester's hands. But I'm not queen of the world. So all that to say, I seamed this incorrectly. So you have this slipped stitch situation that's going on, that would be up here along each side of your shoulder, like your back shoulder and your front shoulder would start with that slip stitch edge. And because there were no instructions and there were actually no detail shots. So like I looked through, like obviously in the pattern, and then I also looked through Klara's Instagram to see if I could see, you know, like what this shoulder detail is supposed to look like. I could not find any pictures that showed it head on. All I could see was sort of like, you know, partial like side views of it. And so I was just like, okay. And so I seamed it up, and it looked pretty ugly. And then at some point I finally, it was in a video where she's describing how to do something. I was looking at the video and I was like, oh, my shoulders do not look like that at all. And that was when I realized that, yeah, like I was supposed to have seamed like inside of the slip stitch edges. Anyway, I had seamed it like on the wrong side of the stitches. Like I had grabbed from the outside rather than from the inside edge of them. And so mine looked really bad. I was not interested. Well, I did try to unpick it, but I had already buried my end so well in there that I could not figure out where it was, and I didn't want to just start cutting things. And so I gave up and just decided I would duplicate stitch. So this is my little fake jobby here of duplicate stitching along the edge to pretend like I had seamed that correctly. Yeah, also, let's see, you are supposed to use a smaller needle for all of your hem treatments, but like there was no notation to change your needles here in the bottom rib hem. So mine's not. I just followed the instructions and continued using my main needles. And actually I'm happy about that because it's already pulling in quite a bit. And if I had done this in a smaller needle, it would have pulled in even more. So I'm actually, after looking at this, trying it on, I think I'm going to go back and try blocking my back piece out to be a little bit wider, because the back piece is really wanting to cinch at the hem. I don't know what's going on there, but anyway, Yeah, let's see. It was like the test, like I said, the testing experience was not ideal, not my favorite. However, I do think this is a super interesting and very beautiful knit. I was super engaged with it, less so on the back, because the back, I mean, if I had done the chart, I would have been engaged on the back, but I just didn't want to do all that work on the back side. But it was very, very fun. I did end up, so after I got this finished and blocked and everything and tried it on, it is a little longer than, like, it's hitting me a little bit lower than I would like it to. So I wish that I had not added on the stems, because you can in the pattern right here. And just go directly from the stems into the ribbing. But I did an extension that takes you, I think it's about 13 more rows that you work with the stems going outward and then down into the rib. And so I wish I hadn't done that extension, but you know, it's just hard to know exactly how everything's going to block out, how it's going to look, where it's going to sit on you. So live and learn. So it's a little bit, it doesn't hit me. It starts hitting me at the widest part of my body, which is just like not the best place for something to hit on you. So I'm still playing with how I'm going to style this. I may have to make myself a skirt to go with it. Because right now I feel like I don't have anything long that looks very good with it. So I may have found one dress. I don't know. We'll see. If I put up pictures over here to the side, by the time I post this, I guess you'll see how I styled it, at least for the pictures. But yeah, I hopefully we'll figure something out. Having a little bit of trouble because the dress that I was thinking I would wear it with, it does not work with that. It causes that dress to hike up in a weird way. So let's see. I use Lion Brand Fisherman's wool for my yarn in the colorway Oatmeal, and it was knit with size 7, US size 7 needles for the body. And it took me from June 29th to July 19th, not monogamously working on it. So yeah, I think it's one that I will definitely recommend the pattern when it's finished. Wish I could have recommended it from the time I had started on it, but yeah, you did it. Okay, next up we have one that I cannot show you fully, so I'm just gonna show you a little bit. We can't show this all the way until it is released, but here's a little sneak peek of the Road Trip Kerchief, which is a test knit that I did for Briana, Arlene. It is going to be releasing the end of September. So the Road Trip Kerchief and the Kytice Vest, I suspect, will release around the same time. The Road Trip Kerchief is a DK weight mosaic cowl. Well, actually it's not a cowl, it's a bandana. I used Knit Picks Arcadia, which is a wool alpaca blend that they had just kind of as a one-off 1 year during their big sale. It is extremely soft, but it's also like a single, so you know, probably not great for like garment wear, but I thought it would work well for this little neck thing. And it went super fast. I think I finished this in 3 days. And not working on it the whole time. I actually took it to my mom's while we were down there visiting and actually doing a bunch of other activities, so I got hardly any knitting time with it. But yeah, it just flew off the needles. A very, very quick, very easy, memorizable little pattern. I greatly enjoyed it. I haven't weighed my yarn yet to find out exactly how much I used, but I would say less than, probably 25% of 50 grams, whatever that would be, like a quarter of 150 gram ball for my contrast color. And then I'm not sure if I used a whole 50 grams of my main color, but really not very much of either of them. And I definitely can see myself making more of those because it was just very, very fun and very quick, very satisfying. Okay, next up, we have one that I did not tell you about and wasn't on my needles the last time that I filmed, and it's already off the needles. This is the Rust and Rhythm Bandana. I have no idea how I would ever wear this. If I will ever wear this, probably not. I'm not a scarf shawl wearer, period, and I just don't have the neck for it, I don't think. Ugh. And I have too much hair right now. But apparently I have been in the mood to knit little accessories. This feels extremely early 90s, doesn't it? These colors. It kind of reminds me of those cups that teal does. Okay, so this is a fun, free little pattern from Anna Husemann. It is free on the Hobbii website, and I just used leftover Capretta Superwash. So I was digging around in my yarn stash recently and saw the bag of this yarn, these different colors. This is yarn that was all left over from my Stripes Gone Crazy, Stripes Gone Wild, something like that, sweater, which, did I talk about that in my flops and fails? I don't know. I've talked about that one sometime, where it was just, it was really too big. Like, I think I chose my size based on my full bust size and not my upper bust size. So it was always too big. And then it stretched even worse because this is superwash yarn. And then, but the thing that drove me absolutely bonkers about it is that this Capretta pills like wild. It is so pilly. It's the most pilly thing I've ever worked with. And I cannot take it. I hate how it looks, and even though it's really soft, so it like doesn't, you know how sometimes pills can actually like rub and hurt. With the Capretta, that's not the case because it is just super soft. Because I did not tell you guys. Capretta is 80% merino wool and 10% cashmere, and then 10% nylon. So yeah, it's extremely soft, but because of that, it is extremely pilly, and I will never, I have said never again. I will never buy Capretta again, but I already had this, and so I was like, you know what, this looks like a good way to use up those balls that I have left over, which I did not use up any of the colors. I got close on my gray, but I still have a lot of these left over. So yeah, just whip this up. It is a cute little intarsia pattern. And so if you are interested, if you're intarsia curious, I think this is a great introduction. This is way better than like say working that the Everything is Fine sweater. Yeah, because that is not an easy introduction to intarsia, but this is a lot easier because the shapes are very regular, and yeah, so it was pretty smooth sailing except for this. So I wanted to show you guys how I made some bad choices here. So I had been knitting along, working this intarsia, and then I was like, why am I doing this? I can just carry, because that's only 2 stitch. That's a 2-stitch float there, so I can carry it. Well, obviously my tension between carrying and the intarsia is pretty different, and so look at that, you can see it there. And yeah, once I had started though, I just went ahead and carried it all the way, because the thing is, if you don't carry, then I would have had to have 2 balls of the orange, 2 balls of the teal, and 2 balls of the gray here, when I was like, I just feel like, let me just have the one. Actually, you have 3 balls going. You would have 4 balls if you were doing this intarsia correctly in this section. So, you know, just less dangling yarn to deal with. And I took the easy route, and I shouldn't have, because it definitely messed up the continuity there. But yeah, I think like it was a lot of fun. I spent literally like, I don't know, 2 days on this. It was a good break in between my other large projects, one of which is still coming up to show you guys. So yeah, just something else to think about. And I really got into it. This pattern is like the beginning section. Basically, when you're getting things set up, like this part down here is written instructions. This part is written instructions, but like all of the intarsia section, the body of the scarf is charted. And when you're looking at it, this took me a little bit to realize, but there are 3 charts in the pattern. And after studying that and reading and studying the charts and reading, like going back and forth, I finally figured out that the 3rd chart that's in there is not supposed to be. It's just a repeat of the 2nd chart for no apparent reason. Like none of the colors, nothing is different. It is just, I think they just copied it in twice and then didn't delete it. And so like there's a whole extra page of pattern there that doesn't need to be there. And also, yeah, if you're like me, you will spend some minutes going, what's going on? I need to leave them a comment, so maybe they'll take it down. But anyway, there's not a ton of projects of this on Ravelry, but the ones that are there are really pretty. And yeah, I just thought it was fun. I don't know what I'll do with it. See if somebody else wants it. Because I will likely never wear it. But it was fun. And I do think that the Capretta, it does feel really nice. So it should feel nice if somebody wears that around their neck. Okay. Next up, we can move on to whips. So I have made some progress. I've made a lot of progress on my Bountiful sweater. So this is a test knit that I am doing for Maya Maya Tinks, and it is a worsted weight sweater knit at a DK gauge. I'm knitting mine out of Knit Picks Wool of the Andes. It's just sort of a feast of textures. I guess that's the Bountiful part of it. And it features these lateral braids in between each section. I have just finished putting on short rows for my bust. Actually, I just finished this whole section here. And I have done 1 lateral braid. Let me see if I can put this on for you without, for some reason, I only have 1 needle stopper on here instead of 2. I heard somebody talking about needle stoppers the other day, and they're like, I never use those. I think they're dumb. I think it's one of those wasted things. I love my needle stoppers, and I do find them extremely useful. So here's where we are. You can see my short row shaping in there. So I have a story about that. I did these lateral braids take so long. I timed myself, and it takes me 50 minutes to do 1 body round of like just this round. The one that I'm on that I've just finished, where I'm doing the braiding, that took 50 minutes. 50 minutes. Oh no, I'm losing stitches. Well, I will have cut some film there where I had to try to pick up those stitches. I guess the nice thing about the lateral braid is that you don't lose those stitches because of the lateral braiding. So they at least weren't really going anywhere. But yeah, so each of those stitches, each of those lateral braids takes so long. So Yeah, I'm watching the Netflix version of Little House on the Prairie. So basically, like, took an entire episode to make one single round of my project. And I am going to hopefully work up the oomph to make the second one, because each of the lateral braid sections has 2 lateral braids in it. So I'll have to do another one, and then I can move on to my next stitch pattern, which will be this one. I will be redoing more of it. Okay, so I told you there was a little bit of a saga with the bust darts. So I had kind of complained a little bit before about, in this test knit, we're working off Google Docs, and Maya isn't, like, she is updating the pattern in the comments to the Google Doc rather than updating the Google Doc itself. So you've got to, like, I figured out that I was not going to be able to work off of the pattern because there have been too many changes at this point. And then when I have the Google Doc pulled up in Google Docs, I then need to click into the sections that I am looking at if there's any kind of comments there, because that is where the corrected version will be if there are corrections. So on the bust dart, I knew I was going to need to work those. And so I was looking at the instructions, and they said that you would start with the longest row of the bust darts and then work your way shorter and shorter. So like on the first pass, you'd go all the way here to here, and then you would like do shorter and shorter and shorter rows. But that is the way that is recommended for bottom up garments. With top down garments, normally you work across, and then you work across, and then you work across, and you like pick up more stitches each time. So you're knitting past where your short rows were rather than turning before you get to your short rows. And so each row gets longer and longer. And it's like that way the bottom of your trapezoid of fabric you're creating is down here. Otherwise the bottom is going to be at the top, and then it's going to get like smaller. And just style wise, the like designers I have read before, like Isolde Teague and Coco Knits, have said like you want it shorter getting longer if you're going top down. And so I had just asked Maya, is there a rationale for why we're doing it this way rather than the way you normally do it in top down? And she was like, oh, well, that's just the way that I have normally done them, but actually I've been wanting to try the other way or whatever, so like this is the push I needed to do that, and I'll rewrite it. And I was like, okay. So then I was ready to start, and like the rewriting hadn't been there, and so like I messaged, and I don't know, for whatever reason, it just wasn't, the Google Doc comment wasn't showing up for me. But then it showed up the next day. I was able to see the comment that she had put in with the new information. However, when I went to do the bust darts, they're broken out into A, B, and C cup sizes, I think. And I had intended to work the B, which was the largest size of darts that was possible for my size. Because you couldn't work the C darts if you were working a size, if you weren't working a size 5 or up. I'm working a size 4. So I could only do the B dart. So that was what I was planning to do. But then, because of having to go in and look at the pattern and open up those comments, I ended up grabbing the wrong instructions. I got the A cup instructions rather than the B cup instructions. And so, that's partly on me. I just wasn't being careful. But I think I would not have made that mistake had I been able to like mark up my own copy and know exactly where it was. So this is what I'm saying about, like, it just cuts down on mistakes if you can mark up your own copy. Anyway, this is what happens sometimes with testing, right? You're not in the perfect ideal conditions. So I worked the A cups bust dart. So I did not work the depth of darts that I really needed. So it's better than it would have been without them, but it's not as deep as I need. So like there is still some differentiation for sure. My back hangs lower than my front does, which is annoying because that's what I was trying to prevent. But it's okay. I am not ripping them out because I had already started the other bust darts, the, you know, upside down ones, and had ripped all of that out. You know, so I was not going back and doing this again. Anyway, so making good progress on that one. I think really, well, I don't know about the collar. That part could be tricky, like picking up for the collar, but I think it should be fairly smooth sailing from here on down, aside from, you know, the trauma of having to work those lateral braids every so often. But yeah, going along pretty well on that one. And then I needed something else small to work on in between the giant Bountiful project. So I cast on for a Giselle dress. So I made one of these in the springtime for a friend who was having a baby. And this one is not for anybody in particular. I'm making this to enter into the fair because they have a baby dress category. And this is the top, and then it will just be knit in this little chevron lace pattern down. Sorry, it is not, it's showing up pretty well on the back side for me, but there we go. Maybe you guys can see that now. Anyway, I just started on this yesterday, I think, so it is not very far along on it, but it's fun. I love self-striping. I just love to watch the colors develop. And this is Knit Picks Stroll in my bright pink. I think this is the colorway Pucker. When they've had a brights collection now. I love the colors that they have in their brights, their highlighter colors. And then this is Felici. I think this is Lisa, like inspired by Lisa Frank. This is from a couple of summers ago, I think. And I just think it's a really fun color. And yeah, very girly, very fun to knit. So yeah, working away on that. And that uses a US 3 for the top garter stitch portion and then US 5s for the dress portion. Oh, and I didn't tell you, this is a pattern by Taiga Hilliard. I have made it a ton of times. I just think it's such a fun little baby knit. Yeah. All right. And then because I was bored of working on my Bountiful sweater, I pulled out the Sellwood and did a little bit of work on it. I had to go digging around to find the needles that I was using for this because they were on my Trailhead tee. So I pulled them off of there and did a couple of chart repeats because it takes you a while, when you pick something up, because it's been probably 2 months since I worked on this. So it took me a while to get back into the chart, but yeah, hopefully I'll keep working on it because it's really not hard. Once I figured out how to, at first I was about to like throw this away. Because it was just killing me. It has one part where you knit, it's either knit 4 or knit 5 together. And I couldn't do it. Like, this yarn is very splitty. It has a lot of plies and it's linen, so it also doesn't have any stretch. And I was just ready to throw the whole thing in the trash. But I did a quick little Google and discovered that there's a way easier way to do that, knit 4 or 5. And it just involves like knitting 2 together and then passing, it must be a knit 4 together, because the workaround is knit 2 together, pass that stitch back to your left needle and then pass 2 stitches over it. I think. Anyway, it's a lot easier if you do that little workaround. So that one's going along. We'll see if I keep working on that one or not. This one's knit bottom up. It's a Caitlin Hunter pattern. I tried it last year and frogged it what little I had, was not enjoying it. So this is my second attempt at it, and I'm hoping that I will make it this time. We'll see. Okay. And then I have some sadness to share with you. I have a tale of woe. Let me see where I put it. Here we are. Okay, this is my Checkerplate Tee, which is a pattern, a very beautiful pattern from Lily Kate France. I am making it in Holst-Garn Tides, which is a now discontinued yarn that is wool and silk in fingering weight. And I was so happy, so celebratory with myself because I had just finished the chart with one of the increase charts. I had finished the whole chart and was ready to move on, and went to read the instructions to see what I needed to do next after finishing that chart. And that is when I saw that it said for my size that I should have stopped on row 12 out of, like, the whole chart was like 25 rows or rounds, and I did all of them, but I was only supposed to do the first 12. And then I was supposed to do something else, move on to, because this is a compound raglan. And so it was going to move to like a different rate of increases, I think. And this is not the pattern's fault. This is what happens when you have too many whips going and you're hopping around and, spending, taking a week or 2 or 3, putting a project down and then picking it up after that long. This is what can happen, because I do distinctly remember having read earlier, like, be sure to read ahead and know, like, when to stop working. Like, there are those instructions in there. I had just forgotten that by the time, I actually got back around to working on the project from when I had read that, because it was definitely weeks or possibly even a month earlier that I had read those instructions. So yeah, I have this much done. And I have to frog and start this completely over, which it doesn't look like that much. It feels like a lot when it's lace. Hopefully this means that I will just be able to work it even faster the second time, because now I know what I'm doing. But yeah, it's sad. Very sad. So I've known for like a week that I needed to frog this, but I was saving it to share with you guys before I did that. So now I've shown you, and I can go ahead and get that frogged and hopefully restarted before I lose the motivation to work on it. Okay, so next up, I am not really sure what I'm going to be working on next, because I am wanting to cast something new on, even though I need to frog the Checkerplate Tee and start that one over. I'm thinking about the fair is coming up, so I'm still trying to figure out what I can enter for the different categories there, and working on some stuff. One of those is toys, a stuffed toy, and I haven't made anything very impressive in the last year. So if I want to enter something in the county fair, which has to be made in the last year, I need to do something for that. So I want to do, I talked about before, the pig stuffy from the Cynthia Valier book that I have, Moosh and Friends, from that book. There's a very cute little pig in there that would knock off a bingo thing, and it would give me something to enter into the fair. So I just need to gather my materials and start on that one. And another thing that I have not made anything very impressive in the last year, actually I don't even know if I have any that I've made the last year, is socks. So I have a pair that I'm working on right now that are my purse socks. They are going to be for my son-in-law, but they are just like extremely basic vanilla socks in self-striping, and I'll have to show you guys this at some point. But I had just gotten, well, it doesn't matter where I was in the sock. I was knitting along and was like, what is going on? Is there a knot in this Felici? What's happening here? Because like the color, like I could see that the next color coming up was not the correct color in the sequence. And there was just an entire stripe that it was a complete misprint. Like it had no dye on it whatsoever. It was very weird. So it has like a white stripe, which is correct. and then like one round of blue, and then a whole nother white stripe, which is not correct. It should have been a completely different color. Anyway, and so it looks, I mean, it wouldn't bother me if I was wearing it. Hopefully it won't bother my son-in-law, but judges will probably be like, what is going on here? But it wasn't a knot. Like, there wasn't a knot. They do that in Felici sometimes, you know, they'll knot it and the color will restart just wherever. But this was not. It was just a total misprint, you know, of the dye job. So, and interesting. Anyway, so I don't know if I will enter those socks, even if I get them done in time, because they're, you know, they just, judges probably aren't going to be very impressed by this incorrectly striped set of very basic vanilla socks. Another thing is mittens. I feel like I did make several pairs of mittens this last year. However, they all went to different homes, so I don't have access to any of those. So I was thinking I might make the tarot cat or kitten mittens by Briana, Arlene. I think those would be cute. Their color work, fingering weight, I don't know how long they'll take me if I have time to get those done, but that's a possibility that I have dragged out yarn for, thinking I might get to. But yeah, so those are the things that I'm thinking like I need to do that would help me with the fair. However, what my heart wants to do is I got this drops in my drops order from earlier in the summer. I got drops Fiesta in watermelon and black. So I'll put up a picture of the watermelon so you can see it. But I got that to make a Farnham tee by the Knit Pearl Girl, only like a sweater version of it, because like I do not need a wool DK weight wool t-shirt. So yeah, a long sleeved DK weight striped sweater. I think it would be very cute. I think my color choice was inspired by somebody's Olga sweater that they had made in that combination. Anyway, I just think it would be really, really cute. I keep wanting to cast on for that, even though I have no business. I don't need that now. I also have the Caitlin Hunter Easy V, like that's on my bingo list to make, and I have all of the yarn for that like wound up, and it's actually sitting out very accessible to me. So that's a possibility, but that is not where my heart is leaning. So it needs to lean into the pig. That's where my heart needs to lean. But right now it's wanting to do that Farnham tee. So we'll see what wins out in the end. So yeah, so that's what I've been up to. What about you guys? What are you working on? I hope whatever it is, you are enjoying it, and enjoying, or at least staying cool in these very, very hot days of summer for those of us who are in the Northern Hemisphere. Anyway, that's all. I will talk to you guys later. Bye.